Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Boomer.
Well, just glad to be on the show tonight. We're just coming off of a fun volleyball win, and I'm glad nothing else has been released lately to take everyone's minds off of our podcast tonight. It's, oh, gosh, another Chasing Three. We just can't win. So.
I think maybe we should change when we start these things. I don't know. Also with Redcast, Abby.
Hi. So for those of you who didn't watch the volleyball game, this is a sweep or broom. And this, Stanford friends, is a hair dryer. If you remember from 2018, it's a hair dryer.
That's going way back to where they had the whole board thing and the whole, right?
No, we never forget. We don't forget.
No, apparently not you at least. That's for certain.
No, Redcast Abby plays the long game for revenge. So.
I have so many receipts you don't know.
We've now beat Stanford 2 years in a row in the regular season, right?
And we've maintained we can talk about it. We've maintained our home court win streak now. We're 31. So we are leading the country.
Awesome. Well, let's go right into volleyball since the match just ended and do some courtside cooking. Abby, give us the rundown of this big sweep of the number 2 team in the country.
The number 2. Yeah. How unexpected. We were talking about it earlier, and I think a lot of Nebraska fans were kind of expecting this would go to 4, 5. It'd be a tight match. Game 2 was, set 2 was close. It was probably the closest that it was. 1 and 3 looked like vintage Nebraska though. And we've seen that since that 5th game of Creighton. So SMU may have woken that team up, but that 4th set against Creighton, I think, did the trick. And this team seems to be back, firing on every cylinder, going after things, not letting tips drop, all of that. So it's really fun to see us kind of back where I think we all expected this team to be at the start of the season. It's exciting. And
the matches just get bigger, right? In the sense that we have national TV on Sunday.
Yeah, against Louisville, against a former Nebraska player at Louisville. So that's so exciting. It'll be a good matchup. They just beat Kentucky 3-1 today. Trying to remember who they lost to, because they've lost to one team, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. So Sunday afternoon, I can't see my calendar, it's too far away.
It's kind of in the morning, like 11:30 Central. I want to say.
Is that it? Yeah, it's on ABC. I get that right.
I want to say this is the first regular season volleyball match on national TV, as in like a network, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's like great. Ever. It's so good, and it's just indicative of how the sport's growing, and that Nebraska is one of the teams at the center of it. And it's a great time. It's a great time to be a Nebraska fan. And so if you haven't watched volleyball yet this season, first of all, what's wrong with you? And secondly, tune in Sunday, because you'll have no hangovers from Saturday. What will you be? There's no.
That's right. You got a full day to recover from the Friday night football.
Yeah.
But we're even talking for years about how women's volleyball is just a huge missed opportunity by the TV networks, that it's a really great TV friendly sport outside of the kind of undetermined length of the matches. To your point, Abby, you never know if 3, 4, or 5 can be a big difference. But besides that, it's just made for TV, and now it's so much easier to actually watch a lot of these matches live.
Yeah, we've spoken about that, and you hit the nail on the head, Dave. It is perfect for television. It's fast paced. It's all contained on one screen for the most part, until they do those stupid backcourt, camera angles that they're just trying to be artistic with, or whatever. The guy who thought he could do movies or whatever is a producer, but yeah, it's all right there. It's all exciting. It's fast paced. It's screams TV, and it really kind of shows you what they think, women's volleyball can do if they're putting it on a Sunday at 11:30. I mean, that's in competition with the NFL. So they clearly think there's a sports demographic and target market that is not being served, currently. No pun intended with volleyball.
Yep.
But Yeah, I mean, that really speaks volumes to what they think volleyball can be as a televised sport, and it is really exciting to see that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It feels like it's got a lot of momentum, and my 8-year-old is getting into it now, which is cool, and it's great because you can just search women's volleyball, and there's just like matches on all the time now. It's not just Nebraska. There's multiple matches most nights, it feels like. So it's a big change. It's really cool.
And I don't know if anybody saw this on Twitter. It's been talked about. There was a high school in Iowa that did an outdoor volleyball day, kind of like obviously much smaller scale. They had an outdoor volleyball match, and it was a record attendance for them, which I think is amazing. And they credited us, and I love to see that. Not only is it college and like D1 level volleyball getting it, but you're seeing this kind of trickle down to the lower levels of college volleyball, and now even the high schools are getting in and doing what they can to kind of promote this sport, which I thought that was awesome. What a cool thing. I wish my high school we weren't very good, but it still would have been a lot of fun to like go play.
How did the high school, did they like rent an outdoor court?
No, I think it's that same like Terraflex floor or whatever. That's
okay,
like
Well, these don't have those hanging around the wood shop in the high school, I think they had to get it somewhere.
Well, I know that like a lot of clubs, even when I played, a lot of clubs had it. They almost look like Lego pieces or like puzzle pieces that you put together and snap together on the floors. So my guess is that they did something like that out on the football field, and then they just had just the half. I think just half of the stands full, but it was so cool to see.
Very cool. Abby, I missed asking this question last week. I know we were already running late, but you mentioned the fourth set of the Nebraska Creighton game, and they looked just so out of sync on that set. And it was interesting. I was watching it with my daughter, and she was asking me like, so, who are these players out there? So I was looking, and I'm like, I didn't see Harper Murray that much. Merritt Beeson was on the sideline the whole time. I can't remember Lexi Rodriguez being out there the second half of the set at all. It was interesting. You're saying how important maybe that fourth set is, but I was wondering how much Cook was pulling some of his starters because he felt like it was a lost cause already. They were down by enough, or was trying to prove a point to them that they really needed to get their act together. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it could have been both. I think also we've talked about it before. There are many teams like this, so we're not unique in this regard, but we are an embarrassment of talent right now, right? Like we've so much talent standing on the sidelines. I mean, that's why we lost the players we did in the portals. They were really good. They want to go play somewhere, which is great.
Nebrnois is like the best player at USC now, right?
Yeah, she's so good. I was watching part of the Penn State game, and like Carolyn Juveshis is doing. I'm not saying her name right. I'm sorry. She's doing great. Maggie Mendelson is doing great. Like, so these players are doing really well at the schools they're at. So we've got so much talent. Taylor Landfair was a Big Ten Player of the Year. She's an amazing player. She's so talented. And like Layla Blackwell was like one of the top defenders in her league, in her conference last year. So there is, I think, a little bit of this, like, maybe get them in. Let's see if maybe it changes momentum a little bit to kind of spark it and get it going for the fifth set. It could be you're not playing well enough and you don't have to play. Like, we've got the talent. We can pull you if we need to. Or it could be, so it could be a variety of things. And with John Cook's been doing this long enough, I kind of trust his mindset, but my concern for that is so much of volleyball benefits from playing together, and it's like an O-line, right? Like, you want your offensive linemen to have lots of snaps together, have good chemistry because they've been around each other, they play each other, they know how each other's going to move. And part of the problem, I think, in that fourth set with kind of switching players in and out like that is that you lose some of that chemistry, and that'll come as the season goes on.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I appreciate it, because I was trying to like figure out how I could explain that to my 8-year-old. I'm like, I don't know why Mary Beeson isn't in right now.
Yeah, and Yeah, and they've been pulling Merritt a little bit more in the back row to give some of, the littles a chance to play back there.
Mhm.
So to give Olivia more playing time and Lainey more playing time. But I think he's still yeah, we've had this before where it's just like, man, we have so much talent. I want to see Taylor out there. But also like the players who start are so good that you don't want to pull them because if she's out there, that means maybe one of them is not playing well. So it's a really complicated thing to kind of figure out, but that would be my guess is it was a
Mhm.
combination of let's see if maybe this change sparks some momentum to carry into the fifth set, which it did, whether that was intentional or not. And then also it might be a look, hey, we'll play other players. Like it's all right, and maybe not as a punishment, but as a like, let's get you out, let's get you a breather, let's refocus your mind while we've got these other players who could come
Yeah,
in and
yeah.
do it.
That prompts me to ask one more question, and then we can turn to football. But like from a as a sport, like the endurance level between a 5 set match, and then also how that translates to 30 plus matches during a season. How much, in football, if you can rest your starters in the second half, you're going to do that because you're taking wear and tear off of your running back and all that type of things. NBA super regulates how many minutes each player gets, right? Is there any thought process on that, especially as you would enter into Big Ten play and you get maybe a break here or there? Do you play some of your backups a little bit more when it's not the top opponents?
Yeah, and I think we saw that against I think it was Citadel that, like, Layla and Taylor both got a lot of playing time in those
Yeah,
matches, and against Arizona State, they both kind of came in. So I
yeah,
think you do see that in some of these opponents is you give your non-starters more playing time and starting time and all of that. I just it's a weird thing though with, like with volleyball where you kind of don't want you want your starters to be able to push through the entire season. And so like as we get
mhm,
into Big Ten play, you want those people who have the best chemistry, who kind of know where the other person's going to be on the court. Um, you want them playing together. And so you would think they would play more, but if you watch a lot of teams don't sub out a lot. You don't see that from a lot of teams. And so
yeah,
the wear and
yeah,
tear must not be quite as much and they're conditioned for it and all of that. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's a valid, I think, way of looking at it is you want to make sure that they're going to get through and that, but there don't seem to be the same amount of injuries and probably
Yeah,
because
the
there's not as much
the
contact.
physiology of it seems to be different, right? It's like it's not
Yeah.
contact, and unlike like in baseball, where like throwing a baseball must be a very unnatural motion because any
Right.
pitcher will get Tommy John surgery now. But apparently the motions of volleyball are actually relatively natural for humans, apparently.
It might be, and it might be interesting, like if we can try to maybe get somebody from the not the athletic department, but somebody who does the
Yeah,
training and
yeah,
rehab with them. They might know that too, of like why we don't
right,
really see that kind of like repetitive motion injuries with
yeah,
our volleyball players like you do with baseball players.
yeah, yeah. Well, for another day.
For another
Intriguing.
day, for a Husker episode, maybe.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's throw on our scarlet colored glasses and talk all things Husker football. And just, match rule was on last night. And the Mats, as usual, do an amazing job of breaking down all the key plays in the game. And I appreciate McGuire talking about yards per point and how good our defense was against Northern Iowa, even though they gave up 300 yards, only giving up 3 points is exactly really what you want to do. Boomer, any thoughts? Are you a little happier with Tristan Alvano's performance? You feel his yips are off? Or overall takes from the Northern Iowa game?
Yeah, first off, it was good to see field goals be made, in that game. They weren't like key moment field goals or anything like that, but at least, you're hitting those
They're
20,
making them
30
now, yeah.
yarders. Yeah, so at least get back to that habit of making them now. I was surprised a bit about Northern Iowa being able to move the ball, what seemed reasonably well, all things considered in that game. I thought we would, first off, I thought they'd run the ball a lot more than they did, especially early on in that game. They seemed to actually go to the passing game quite a way to start. And they did seem to
Yeah.
have, reasonable success moving the ball for the most part. I expected more of a What they have ended up with 139 yards rushing, somewhere right around there, which was pretty much what we had. You know, granted they had more attempts, but I thought we'd hold them under 100 yards rushing in that game. And then, you know, they did have a huge time of possession, in their favor.
38
as well.
minutes,
So,
I believe. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, to our 21 or 22-ish. So that surprised me a little bit. You know, they certainly didn't have the defense to hang into that game, but offensively they performed better than I anticipated they would going into it. So I was a little surprised there. But again, you know, for nitpicking things like that in a game you win by 31, it's still a good place to be. So
it could be worse. Let me tell you.
Oh yes, yeah, we've podcasted through many, many worse. So
yeah, absolutely. Abby, your takeaways?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think same. Like if we're nitpicky, the defense was a little sluggish. I felt like
Tackling was a little off. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. I remember watching it just thinking like, what are we doing? Like, come on, guys. Come on. Like, come on, and they did again, 3 points. The bend don't break. And I say that I don't even know that it really was that bad. Like, but I remember in the stands just being like, oh no, come on, guys. Let's not do this. Nuts. But again, I mean, that's so minor for what we where we are this year. We haven't been here for how long? Almost 10 years. So nitpicky would have liked to see the defense not look quite so hungover from the Colorado game, which is what it kind of felt like.
Right.
Because there was always going to be that concern that there was an emotional kind of bounce back or kind of bounce from it.
Yeah.
But they got it together, they figured it out, held them to 3 points. That's hard to do against any opponent. So
if that was their letdown game where they weren't that sharp and they still gave up 3 points, that's pretty good, right? I mean, the tackling wasn't maybe as good. Matt Rule said as much as they didn't come out with quite as much fire as they should have. But I credit to Northern Iowa and their scheme there. They did come out and throw the ball more than I thought they would. If you looked at their going into that game, they were a 75-80% play calling on the run side, and they were far more balanced against us. And we're able to execute, right? I mean, I thought they actually just were willing to throw the ball initially, which opened up the run a little bit. We were down a couple of defensive starters. Let's acknowledge that too. But at the end of the day, the backups held them out of the end zone in the fourth quarter to keep it a 3-point score. So, they can't complain too much. Offensively, looked really sharp to start off with the 3 touchdowns. And again, a few mistakes there holding us out of the end zone. Even the one that Dylan just slipped, that should have been a touchdown. That's why we need grass, apparently, right?
Yeah.
But we'll take a 34-3. All right. Well, let's get going here, and obviously we're excited about turning the page to Illinois. And we're playing Friday night, which is right around the corner. We'll talk about what we expect there in our prediction section. But let's talk about what we want to pump the brakes on in college football. Abby, let's start with you.
Dave, I'm going to pump the brakes on this real quick because we do have a quick read to do for Herd at Me.
Nice segue, Abby. That's really good.
Sharp. So I was thinking it. I had it.
We're professionals here, Dave. So.
So to our friends in and around the Omaha area, there's a cool event. If you want to go see Dane Cook, who's a comedian, if you don't know that, on his tour, Fresh New Flavor. That'll be Sunday, September 29th at 7:30 at Steelhouse Omaha. You can get your tickets at steelhouseomaha.com. That's STEELHOUSE, omaha.com. For those of you, if you don't know who Dane Cook, if you don't know who Dane Cook is, he's a stand-up comic. He's done some acting. If you've seen Waiting, it's probably his biggest movie. It's a funny one. You should watch it if you're not grossed out by what happens with your food at restaurants. It's a classic movie. It reminds me of my college days. Nebraska was good when I was in college. See, there's another connection there. So he'll be performing at Steelhouse Omaha. It's a part of the OPA's is it OPA's Art and Entertainment Campus near the Holland Center in downtown Omaha. So they have a live music venue. It opened in May 2023 and can have a capacity of 3,000 people. So it's located at 1100 Dodge Street, so between 11th and 12th Street on Dodge Street and Capitol Ave. Again, that is Sunday, September 29th at 7:30, and get your tickets at steelhouseomaha.com.
Awesome. I pumped the brakes for that.
I know.
Well done. Well done. If I was in town, maybe I would go to see Dane Cook.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's pump the brakes now. Let's apply that theory. Redcast Abby, what do you want to slow your roll with?
Indiana. I'm gonna need Indiana to calm down.
No, who's your love? Okay.
No, who's your love? No, it's not no who's your love. It's let's just calm down a minute. Indiana is in a place I think that like Nebraska's in right now, where we both our teams were like, we would have lost these games last season. And Indiana, that's sadder because they've played nobody yet. But so I understand the being really excited. Your offense put up a lot of points. You know, Kurt Signetti seems to be getting them on the right track. I think ESPN has them as like the 9th best unbeaten team in the country, which slow down a little bit.
Do they even follow the Big Ten any longer on ESPN?
I mean, no. And it's, it's fine to be excited. It's fine to have hope. You're right. This is probably going to be a pretty successful Indiana. They don't have a hard schedule. It lines up really well for a first-year coach. But let's hang on a second before we start deciding that they also are going to win the Big Ten. It'll be pretty hard to beat us twice. So that's my pump. That's it. I think Indiana.
I am rooting for them maybe to get to 6-0 because that would bring them undefeated while they play us, right? And I'll be ranked. Yeah. But I do like Kurt Signetti. He comes with a lot of fire, a lot of confidence. It's actually obviously being transferred to his players, but I don't think he has the roster to really make too much noise. But I mean, the fact that we're even talking about Indiana potentially, going 6-6 or better is shocking compared to what we thought they would have been going into the year. So.
Yeah. And absolutely, I think that's the truth. I think this is going to be a good year for Indiana fans. And I think a lot of Indiana fans are they also are a little pump the brakes. They're, again, like us, there's a lot of like, oh God, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So that's more for like, hey, ESPN, pump the brakes on Indiana.
Yep. Sounds good. Boomer.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick on Indiana, but, they do have a good chance of, matching up against us undefeated if you just look at schedules. And they do have a pretty soft Big Ten schedule.
Who do they have?
This week they play Charlotte, then it's Maryland and Northwestern before they match up with us. Then after that, it's, they still get Washington, Michigan State, Purdue. They do play Michigan and Ohio State, but, they do have a good chance of making a good run this year. So
yeah, it's like we might be able to play a ranked Illinois, a ranked Indiana, and a ranked Rutgers.
Yes.
While we play
Ohio
them.
State. Yep. So.
But
and a ranked
but by the time the season is over, none of them will be ranked.
Well, it counts for the SEC, so it's fine.
That's true.
That way.
It's all about
we'll take it that way.
All these top 25 wins we could rack up.
Exactly. So we'll count them. So. But my pump the brakes, it's somewhat similar to Abby's. It's just another Big Ten team next door, and actually our opponent this week, Illinois. I am kind of surprised they stuck into the rankings this week. I mean, I watched them play.
There's no one else there.
I know. Sometimes you get in by default, the two sweetest words in the English language, default. But, I watched them play against Kansas, and Kansas, losing their offensive coordinator, they're struggling this year. I mean, that's not a great Kansas team anymore. That was a 13-10 game at half, and Illinois needed a 10-point fourth quarter to even win that game. And then this last week, what was it, Central Michigan? I think that was 13-6 at half. I mean, Illinois is not a offensive, juggernaut in any capacity. So I don't know.
Central Michigan to cover 18.5, and
so
losing that for me in the second. But
it was close. I mean, they had a shot at that one, but I'm not sold on Illinois being some great, Big Ten power at this point, of smash mouth football and generating turnovers.
Don't lessen our potential victory on Friday, Boomer.
I know, but a win is a win. It doesn't matter, Dave. As long as we're winning, it's fine. So, but yeah, I'm not sold on them being a legit ranked team. I'm more interested in seeing, actually when we do play a team like Rutgers and then Indiana, I think they're a little more balanced and have a little more offensive energy than Illinois does. But I'm pumping the brakes there.
All right. I'll throw my pump the brakes out really quick. I say the Arch Manning for Heisman campaign needs to pump the brakes because I think Quinn Ewers will be back. I think Quinn Ewers is probably going to be the first quarterback off the board in the NFL draft next year. And when he's ready to play, probably at least by the Oklahoma game, if not earlier, he'll be back out there. Although I think Arch Manning is going to be amazing and he's going to be primed for the Heisman next year. I think Sarkisian really does have a juggernaut getting built down there, but I think Quinn Ewers will be back on the field sooner than later. Arch will be the best backup quarterback in the country, and I think Texas is going to have a good year.
Yeah, did they give an update on his injury, Quinn Ewers, or when
it was an
back? I know it was an
abdominal
strain. That means, but I mean,
it sounds like it's something that if he needed to play, he could play right away.
Okay.
But it also might take a few weeks to get fully healed. So it's a perfect time to take some time off, keep some tread on the tires for your starting quarterback. Let Arch go ahead and beat, I don't know, like who are they playing? Like Louisiana something. I mean, it's not a challenging next two games, and they have a bye, I think. So right. I think Texas, whether they bring Quinn Ewers back sooner or not, we'll be ready for the Oklahoma game, and that's when it counts.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure with the abdominal strain. That sounds like hockey after Thanksgiving, so I wasn't sure what exactly that meant. So okay,
I've heard about that. Hockey's abdominal strain. Very good, very good. All right, let's start to take us around the world of college football a little bit there. So let's talk about the Tennessee talent fee. Boomer, you want to give us the background of this, and what do you think?
Yeah, this is kind of announced this just the last few days. Tennessee University they are actually going to be adding a 10% talent fee on top of their tickets. They're calling this, a way to generate the revenue they need for revenue sharing. So they're planning to start this in 2025. So this just came out and they just announced it to, football season ticket holders. So that'll be interesting. And they're also going to, add some donation increases as well. So this is where they say they need the money to help participate in that revenue sharing plan, which is set to kick in 2025. So
right,
they're the first school to actually announce this. I'm curious to see how soon other people are going to fall in line with this, because there's one thing that they certainly don't have in college sports. It's money readily available, so they always have
cash poor, really.
Yep, not a cent to spare anywhere. So despite having a $9 million head coach and a $2.5 million athletic director there at Tennessee, before any bonuses, just nothing else to spare. So. But yeah, I can only imagine we'll be seeing more of this pop up around the league now that somebody took the dive to be first and catch all the flack.
Yeah, Boomer, have you seen any like projected revenue from that new stream? I mean, like 10%. The average ticket price face value at Tennessee's got to be pretty high. I'm just wondering how much that actually computes to.
And
yeah, I'd be curious. Go ahead.
It's also not just football. Like I think I read that they're going to do it to all sports. So every sport is going to see a 10% increase in their ticket sales.
Yes.
Interesting.
Or ticket prices, not sales.
And the revenue sharing, the last estimate I thought was 22 million, right? They need to have,
I think so. Yeah. About 22 million is up to, I think is what they can do. So yeah, they have to, schools are, don't want to cut down on the money they're already spending on everyone. So they have to, find more ways to tap into that. And this is one way they're going to do it, I'm afraid. So I think we're going to be seeing that fairly soon.
Yeah. I mean, in one way, I kind of like the fact they're just being transparent about it. In some way, I think fans might actually accept it more. They're like, yeah, you know what? If this is actually helping us go 9-3, 10-2 every year, maybe I'm okay with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess there is that in this world of NIL and profit sharing. Transparency has been lacking basically since it started. Nobody has any clue what people actually make and how much they're getting and where your donations are going. But at least with this, it'll be on there. At least 10% of it's going there, at least in theory. So
Yeah.
But
yeah,
yep,
weird for certain. Well, Boomer, kind of on that topic, before we get to Pac-12 expansion, which is near term, there was a proposal today about a whole new subdivision of sorts with FBS, FCS, right?
Yeah, that was pitched again today. There's talk of the reality of sports being what it is. You've got your big power conferences that play football essentially, and you have all your other nominal FBS level programs that play either group of 5 type sports or even some of the smaller Power 5 teams, and then all your NCAA basketball programs that are out there. And there's big questions with how they're going to organize themselves. When you've got schools like the Tennessees that are looking to hand out $22 million of revenue sharing to student athletes, and then you've got other programs that might make $200 of profit on a given year. I think San Jose, last time I looked at their the Mountain West budgets, that was their net profit for 2023 was $200. So I mean, you've got such a huge and then you've got smaller basketball schools and things like that don't even play football. I mean, their budgets are they lose money every year. They rely on student fees and things like that. So there's a proposal again to sort of split the kind of a formal splits, not in name anyway, in the FBS Division I kind of level, where you'll have those Power 5 programs who are going to kind of set their own rules for things like football, and try to have some, I think they were calling like the the premium sports division or something like that, where they're going to have more of an academic focus. They won't be participating in the big revenue sharing, but they still want access to the NCAA basketball tournament, which is where a lot of these schools and programs make their money to kind of keep themselves afloat. So I think
they clearly need to brand this. They need to top shelf. I mean, like what you're saying, premium.
Yeah, and essentially what it is, it's an attempt by those smaller schools to try to keep the NCAA as it is in some semblance of togetherness, so they have that access to the tournament. Yeah, because the bigger programs are either wanting to branch out and completely separate themselves football wise. There's all the talk about trying to make sure they get more and more automatic access to playoffs and the NCAA tournaments. So that's kind of what it is. It's just how can we kick this can down the road for at least another decade or so to try to keep access to what we have and get the money. I don't know long term, 20, 25 years in the future, I think it's going to look very different, but this is the attempt for now. So
yeah, we'll see if it sticks. I mean, essentially Power 4 plus whoever wants to opt in could be in this more revenue sharing model. All right, we'll see if it goes anywhere. Pac-12 expansion. We were hoping to get our good friend and colleague on the show, producer Skip, to join us. He's can't get on, so maybe we'll get him to jump on next week where we talk a little bit more. But Abby, what do you think about this Washington State, Oregon State coup to land some of these Mountain West schools, including Colorado State, Skip's alma mater?
Well, after this week, I'm not sure why anybody would add Colorado State, but no.
Well, if they want to win.
No, I think the idea of this is basically they're going to be the G5 conference, or probably the best G5 teams consistently in a conference. Good for them. Good, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. I feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State having constantly getting left out of this and now basically being relegated to a G5 team when Washington State has beat a Big Ten team more recently than a lot of other teams have. So I don't know. So that part, I go back and forth. I think I'm fine with there being essentially like a G5 conference. And it's nice to kind of see them coming together and doing that. It's just, I don't know.
Doesn't feel like the Pac-12, that's for certain. No, they only have 6 teams right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it will be. And I don't think it will be. I don't think it's ever going to be the Pac-12 again.
I'm curious on how much TV money they can actually get. Obviously, I mean, if I was Colorado State, Boise State, I totally get it, right? I mean, you would rather take the branding of the Pac-12 and
Mhm.
have Oregon State and Washington State, even though they were more on the bottom rung of that Pac-12, and play them on a regular basis than the lowest of what's in the Mountain West today. It makes total sense. And if they can add some other quality teams in from maybe a few other conferences and build the best G5 league they can, and their football champion on a regular basis gets that G5 bid, that kind of makes them a de facto Power 5, at least from a playoff access standpoint. I just don't know what the TV dollars are going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I'm with you. Like, I think for those schools, that's good. I think that if we're looking at this from like a playoff perspective, I think it makes sense to kind of have that conference of those kinds of teams, because I think that's likely, if you win that conference, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be in the playoffs. And I think having that solidified is probably a little bit better and a little more secure for them than just saying like, are we the best G5 program? Who knows? So I think from that perspective, this is a really smart move. The money thing, I don't know. I mean, does the Pac-12 still kind of have the gravitas to pull in more TV money?
It's probably more than what the Mountain West could get, I guess. So, right? I don't. That's the question.
With a better commissioner, yeah.
Well, compared to the Pac-12's last commissioner, anything's a better commissioner. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
We could run the Pac-12 as well as he did, but yeah, and I think you kind of hinted at this. We have a comment from Greg about how Oregon State and Wazoo should have just joined the Mountain West. First off, it's entertaining how they had their scheduling alliance with the Mountain West. Yeah. And they promised not to rate each other and immediately reneged on that. So,
yep.
Have any of these scheduling alliances ever worked out in the long term?
No.
I mean, no.
Never.
Those are like an instant just way to destroy each other. But I think the reason why they're not joining the Mountain West is this gives everybody in those conferences the opportunity to kind of cast off the teams they don't want. Your New Mexicos, your San Jose States, Hawaii is a tough team to, have just for travel purposes, so it kind of gives the other teams the chance to kind of disassociate themselves from some of the bottom rung, programs.
There's a reason they didn't invite the entire Mountain West to join.
Yes,
the Pac-12.
That's exactly it. And why they would be looking to add a couple others like Tulane and Memphis were the names that cropped up, because they need to get to at least a minimum of 8 teams to be considered an FBS conference. So with the Mountain West teams, that would get them up to 6. They need at least 2 more. And you're right to the point where they're going to try to poach some of the bigger players of like the AAC to try to kneecap them as well. Yeah. And build that best group of 5 conference with the teams that are left. Schools that they don't have a great pile of money, but they spend money. I know
decent TV
commenting
markets,
about Colorado State.
They win.
Yeah, Colorado State's not a huge power, but they spent $61 million. In their athletic department.
You look at athletic budgets.
Yeah, and they're in a good market. They've got they've got part of the Denver market, right? If I understand TV markets, that's good, great for them. Yeah.
If you look at the teams that they invited from the Mountain West, they're in the top half of the spending, of the Mountain West. So there's reasons they pick those specific teams. UNLV is out there. Air Force, maybe a military school, but I don't think that really moves the needle a whole heck of a lot for you when what you're trying to piece together on this. So. But that's why they're doing what they did, and that's why they're trying to poach them as opposed to joining the Mountain West, which people thought could have happened back then. But it keeps that cachet of the old Pac-12 conference, kind of like the Big 12 is not the Big 12 like it used to be. It's you forget half these teams that are in the Big 12. I can't, some of the conference games are just insane, but still the Big 12, which is we were part of. It seems like an eternity ago.
Yeah. So. UCF versus Utah or something.
Yeah, what is that? BYU is playing.
Baylor Utah is a conference game next year, but not this year, even though they're both in the Big 12. Like it's
they have a bunch of those. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. But it's probably going to happen. That's what the Pac-12's goal is to be that group of 5 conference that gets a playoff team every year. And that's probably even just as big of a key as, what TV revenue they get is. Do they have
because they can get a lot of money off of that. What they feel is like
I think that's what they're shooting for. So, and they've got all that leftover Pac-12 money they can spend, handling the buyouts and things for the Mountain West. And that's what they're going to do.
Yep. All right, very cool, very cool. All right, well let's head to By the Numbers, powered by Husker Max. Boomer, if you can bring up the stat sheet. There we go. All right, Husker Max does a great job of consolidating all the best data out there for this matchup between Nebraska and Illinois. Abby, what are you looking for here going on Friday night?
Well, I'm not looking at it as a good thing. I'm going to comment on that turnover margin. And I think it's slightly misleading. They've had a couple, I mean, maybe it's not misleading, but again, we're talking about Kansas isn't that great of an offense. But that's something to look out for, I think, in this game is, Bert's got
their turnover margin for the folks that are just listening, it's 2.67. So that they're averaging a positive 2.5 turnovers a game right now. It's second in the country.
Yeah,
that's got to be what, 8? There must be +8 or so then.
Yes,
Nebraska is
like 5 against Kansas or something stupid like that.
All it takes at this point is one of those games, right? I mean, that's how like every team last year playing against Nebraska would have had a loaded turnover margin.
Yeah, so I mean that's something I think to be aware of. No, I mean I think that's a little kind of inflated based on their opponents, but it's to be aware of. This is a kind of a ball hawk. This could be a ball hawk defense, so we got to be extra cautious about those throws, and our receivers have to fight for those receptions a little bit more than maybe they did last week.
Yeah, I mein Raiola's turnover, that was a 50-50 ball, and
well, and even that one in Colorado where Ramir caught it, got a touchdown, that could have been and probably should have been a turnover. So like again, we're gonna need everybody to be kind of on fighting for those balls and as much as possible against this defense.
Yeah,
Bert's sneaky. He's so sneaky sometimes with those defenses. Like I don't know how he does it, but
Bielema, I have more respect for him now than I did when he was at Wisconsin, because at that point I felt like he was just an extension of Alvarez and that philosophy. And then he actually kind of failed at Arkansas, which kind of was like, aha. But he's actually, I think he gets Big Ten play. He knows how to build Big Ten teams, especially offensive, defensive lines. And I'll give him credit for that.
He's a good coach. He puts teams together that don't beat themselves.
Yeah.
So they don't make a lot of mistakes. They force you to beat them. And I think we finally have a team that maybe can and also isn't like making those mistakes, but
we won't take the bait. Yeah.
No.
Boomer, this is interesting in the sense that 2 ranked teams. Last year we won 20-7, I want to say.
Yes, correct.
And that was I don't think anybody expected that outcome, but that was a great win. Offense didn't look great, but the defense totally controlled that game. It was never really in doubt. What statistical matchup are you looking for here?
Yeah, it's on the same lines with defense. And when I'm looking at the scoring defense numbers, you look at both these teams, and they do not allow a heck of a lot of points so far this season. We're at 6.7 a game, which gets us 8th in the country, and Illinois is at 8.7, which puts them 14th. And the odds of this being a 9-6 kind of game are probably pretty slim. So it's just going to come down to which defense can hold up and which one is more likely to surrender points, based on what they can do and who they match up against. I suspect our offense is going to be more effective against Illinois' defense than vice versa, Illinois' offense against our defense. But that'll, I said the same thing about UNI, so we'll see, how the defense performs this week, and can they keep teams, from getting out of the end zone regularly. Yeah, if you get yardage, that's one thing. Just keeping them from those touchdowns is the big key. You can hold them to field goals, you can win a lot of games. So I think that's the big key in this game, is who can cut down points on the opponent. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I'm looking at that scoring defense, and we're averaging under a touchdown right now, and what we're giving up. Obviously, only gave up at most 10 points right now to CU. So it'll be interesting to see what Illinois can do. I'm looking, I think the Illinois defensive line is going to be better than what we've played so far. So I'll be intrigued to see how well this offensive line can get push on the run game as well as pass protect. But then on the opposite, I mean, I think Luke Altmaier has looked really comfortable this year. He's gotten a lot better at just like getting one read and making the throw, and looks like a pretty proficient Big Ten quarterback this year. If we can get pressure on him and get him flustered, I think we'll win that turnover margin, regardless of what these stats say right now. And I think that's going to be critical. So hopefully we can get after Altmaier and get him out of rhythm and get up early on these guys.
I like it. Yeah.
Any stats else out here that stick out to you guys you want to talk about?
Well, I'm checking the Kansas-Illinois. How did that game?
Jalen Daniels threw a bunch of INTs. I remember that.
Yes. But what was that final score? Do you remember?
Oh gosh.
Was it a little bit higher scoring? I don't know.
17-23.
Yeah.
So Illinois can give up points. I mean, 17's, not a lot of points, but I think our offense could drive against this defense. Yeah, Jalen Daniels pulled a Jeff Sims that week. But, don't like
he definitely
saying
takes
that.
more risks
for that
than
kid.
someone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think as long as we play clean, I think we can move the ball on them. So I'm with you. Like I think we can do it. I think especially if we get up early and can get to Luke Altmaier, our defense can kind of get into Luke Altmaier's head. Then I don't know. It's gonna
I won't dismiss for the first time in a long time what's starting to feel like a legit home field advantage here, right? I mean, another night game, two ranked teams for the first time in Memorial Stadium since 2013. Is that right?
Yes, it's incredible to think that, but yes.
It's ridiculous. But that was the UCLA game that year, is that right?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Was that like
I was
Brett
there.
Hundley was on with UCLA?
Oh, yes.
Or that,
Yep.
My goodness. So that's a long time ago. Taylor Martinez was starting for us, is that right? So
Yeah, it was a different era, Dave. Yeah.
My good grief. And so long time. But I think that crowd is gonna. I mean, I've talked to a lot of CU fans after the Colorado game. You just randomly see them, work events, that type of stuff, and they really acknowledged that. They felt like that atmosphere definitely impacted their offensive ability to perform at any level that was necessary to win a game. And I'll be curious to see if we can kind of have that same impact again on Illinois, right? If we can bring that much noise and intensity, let's try to win the game for them again, right?
Do you worry about that with it being a Friday night game, kind of being out of everyone's routine? People coming from work. You're not going to have all days to tailgates.
I don't know. Maybe it's the opposite. You guys know this better than me. I'm not, or Boomer at least does. I'm not living there. Are some people taking the afternoon off at least? If I was going to the game, at least,
we're getting out early in the office. I know that much.
UNL canceled in-person classes for the day. Yeah. They're all online. So I would guess that it being a Friday night game, it being a home game, it being a ranked game, it being the 400th game, I'm going to guess that a lot of people are going to take it pretty seriously, even for a Friday night game in terms of attendance and getting hyped up for it.
Yeah. Plenty of time to prepare for it.
Yeah, and this will be an important game, I think, to just kind of see where Nebraska's attitude is at, because this is kind of one of those games where it'll be a good judge whether are we, reading too much into our press clippings. We're getting a lot of love nationwide, in the media. There's, Nebraska's a playoff bubble team, things like that.
Illinois is ranked too. They're getting a lot of
ranked, but, we've had it pretty easy these first three games. We made it look easy in the first halves of all these games. So this will be a great test to just kind of see, are we, in danger of, reading too much into ourselves like Notre Dame was when, they played Northern Illinois. They clearly had just bought into how great of a team they were, and they got skunked by it. There's no excuse for Notre Dame to lose to a Northern Illinois. They're clearly better than that. But
and then come out and beat Purdue 66.
Yes, they took it out on Purdue, next week to show you what they could do.
Purdue.
Yeah. But yeah, this will be a fun just test to kind of see how well they can do in a weird situation, a weird Friday night game. You know, a short week to get ready for it, ranked opponent, your first conference game. So this will be a great kind of
played
measuring.
Illinois on Fridays before, right, Boomer? So this shouldn't be that weird.
No, well, that is true. Yeah.
It was a road game, but we played Illinois on a Friday night.
Yes, we did.
2 years ago. I can't remember.
That sounds right. Yeah, I think it was. But first home game, so there is that
Yeah.
for us. And so Illinois has a short week and has to travel early, so maybe that also works out in our favor too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's definitely the advantage to play at home on a Friday night. There's no doubt about that. I believe that was the game that Mac quit the. Was that the year that Mac quit the show because he was in Illinois?
Yes, I think it was because
Is that a Friday night game?
He and Redcast Donkey went down to that game, and I think that was I think that was it for a while. He needed a breather, so we're kind of like the band Madness. People can come and go as they please.
That's right.
Here, so that's how you get the longevity in a podcast.
It's
we're
true.
not beholden to any one particular member.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it, folks.
So much so. All right. Well, we've already got into NU Illinois, so let's talk about some predictions. I mean, we can just talk here a little bit more, but I ultimately need to lay down a number. Abby, what are you thinking here?
I'm going to go 24-10 Nebraska.
Okay. All right. I feel like Illinois' defense will be able to keep us in check a little bit more, and Rule won't be.
I think it's also like maybe supposed to be a little rainy. I think I saw that on Twitter, so that could kind of slow down scoring a little bit. So I think 24 might be too high, if I'm being honest, but I'm going to be optimistic and say 24-10.
I mean, last year's team scored 20 against this Illinois team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 20-7, I believe. So, all right.
That's true. And that was us trying to give the game away at the end. We went to that game and it was like, oh God, how many turnovers are we going to have in the red zone?
And the game was never really in doubt. That's how good the defensive performance was. They completely shut out Illinois' rhythm.
I'll tell you, those last couple drives, it sure felt like that game was in doubt. It was just like, oh God, guys, come on, don't give. I still have some PTSD from that one.
Yeah, that's PTSD. Boomer, what do you think?
Yeah, this comes down to, again, do we control turnovers? If we don't turn the ball over a lot, I think we win fairly comfortably on this. I just don't think Illinois has offensive firepower to keep up, in any sort of game on this. So I'm going to go with probably, I'm going to go 31-7. I'm going to go all out here on this one. I think we'll be able to score points in that first half. You have the home game, and I think our offense is better than anything they'll have faced. And I think we'll be able to keep them from scoring a whole lot. So it'd be similar to last year. So let's go with that. I'll go out on a limb. Okay.
All right. Yeah. I'm looking at the line right now is Nebraska favored by 8. Over under is at 43. So that would tell you somewhere around 28. 28-17 would be an over and a cover, that type of thing. I don't see Illinois scoring 17 points on this defense, so I hear you there. And so I guess if I was betting this game, I would take the under. I for some reason I don't feel like we're gonna score that much, but maybe we will. Yeah, I'll probably go. I'll do 20. Go 28-13. How about that? I know that Illinois did hit the transfer portal. They've got a couple new wide receivers. One of them came up from Ole Miss, I believe. I forget his name, but he was with their OC at UTSA, and I think they had good connection with Altmaier. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit. I'm glad to see Makuza is going to be able to play. So Lutovsky is going to start, but they'll give us extra depth there in the offense. Hopefully we see some of our stars on defense back too. So yeah, I'll go 28-13.
And I will say, Redcast Rob also predicted a Husker 20-point win and with a score of 28-10. So he Has some math issues, but we're working on that, people.
He didn't go to school for math. He went to school to sell aloe internet. See,
Exactly.
here and we get
That's
the plug.
right.
Yep. So
Why is he doing our taxes, Boomer? That's why.
yeah, that's why we hired him. Yep. So we're in good shape.
Hey, oh my goodness. All right, guys. Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I think that's pretty good for a Friday night show.
Yeah,
Friday week show.
yeah. I'm looking forward to the Friday night. We'll have some people over. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get out of here with some parting shots, and we'll start with you, Boomer.
Don't have anything too exciting. It's just, you kind of touched on it, Dave, just the importance of that home field advantage that we've had so far this year. That has been made a huge difference in these games. I mean, you can hear it, you can see it on the field. Even if people say it doesn't, it does. I mean, you can get teams pretty discombobulated, and if you have that advantage at home, that can easily swing, 4, 5, 6, 7 points your way, even more so than the traditional, 3-point home field advantage you got. Yep. So if you're going to that game, just get yourself ready and, do what you can for it and, go Big Red.
Absolutely. All right, Abby, what do you got?
Well, I'd love to say once a Husker, always a Husker, but I'm really sorry, Danny Busboom Kelly. I really hope that we beat your Scarlet or your Cardinal team on Sunday. Check us out on ABC. And go Big Red.
All right, guys. Good stuff. I'm glad we got a lot of volleyball talk in. I'm looking forward to Friday night's game. Rob will probably be back next week, right? Maybe we'll get producer Skip on at some point. And, if we keep on getting Matt's rules, that means we're winning football games. So that's a pretty good thing. All right, for now, let's call that another Go Big Redcast.
A Herd at Sports Network production.